on Asia Wilson.
Yeah, you can see Kelsey Mitchell right there get Wilson in.
Hold on tight, for the WNBA has started a masterclass in total chaos. In a new video, Kelsey Mitchell is seen yelling at A.A. Wilson and the referees after one of the dirtiest, most rigged-looking games you have ever seen. This clip is generating a lot of viral reactions. Indiana wasn't supposed to lose because of their ridiculous technicals and cheap fouls. They weren't supposed to survive. However, what replaced it? They radically altered the situation. Do you think Vegas is now at last concerned? The real question is that, when the Las Vegas Aces walked into their home stadium, did they not anticipate a coronation? They cleaned the MVP trophy. In line to partake in the celebrations was the press. Additionally, the complete script had already been written. A Wilson was predicted to be in power. Becky Hammond was predicted to outsmart Indiana. In fact, it was anticipated that the referees would rule in Vegas's favor. Rather, the evening turned into a total disaster. A total collapse resulted from pure hubris, reckless play, and, to be honest, some of the worst officiating you'll ever see in a playoff game.
One of the moments in the game that showed blatant inconsistency, right? It just showed, hey, y'all be paying attention to what y'all want to pay attention to, all right? And it doesn't.
Let me tell you, at any level of basketball, no sane person would call what happened to Kelsey Mitchell a technical foul. She finishes the play with incredible focus, absorbs a clear arm across her body, and takes a lot of contact on a drive. But rather of getting the free throw to which she was entitled, she gets punished. Why? The whistle was only effective in one direction after all, because when A.L. Wilson is on the floor, it feels like the rules just change. That turned into the main topic of the evening. Indiana is held to a very different set of standards than Las Vegas. When the Aces played, they gave it their all, aside from playing really good basketball. Whatever they used, elbows, forearms, glaring flops, etc. They weren't trying to win easily. They were trying to scare people. But here's the worst part. Not even Indiana batted an eye. The whistling and the cheap shots did not frighten them in the least. Instead, they simply strengthened their defense, played their sets perfectly, and fined Vegas whenever they made a mistake.
Part of what people are tired of. Tired of the inconsistency. And the favoritism that y'all show certain teams with certain jerseys on, man. It's crazy.
It was hardly visible from the right side of the jump. There was absolutely no intimidation of the fever. Kelsey Mitchell started attacking the lane viciously as soon as the Aces fell, punishing them brutally when they sagged off. Odyssey Sims was a total bulldog on both ends of the court, so he never let Chelsea Gray or Jackie Young settle in. Additionally, Aaliyah Boston and Brianna Turner rotated brilliantly, denying Wilson any easy opportunities in the post and forcing him into those. Challenging fadeaways and tightly contested hooks, the Fever weren't just scraping by out. There, all they were doing was managing the tempo of the entire game. Meanwhile, Vegas looked completely disturbed. The side that was claiming to be the real Aces only a few days earlier looked utterly lost. They expected every foul call to come up, but none did. One flop after another seemed more fake than the last, and instead of adapting, they just melted down. A'ja Wilson, who had just won MVP, responded by hurling elbows, shouting at the officials, and forcing shots that merely clanged off the hoop. The end of the night saw her unleash a nasty 6-for-2 MVP total. Not even close.
How's the body feel at this time of the year, given all that you in particular have gone through and are always on the floor?
I'm a little sore, I'm not gonna lie. It's catching up to me, but we're gonna just keep getting warm, keep going out there, try to forget about the pain a little bit. But that's the part of the year. That's everyone. Everyone's playing with a little bit of bumps and bruises, and again, you just kind of forget about that in playoffs.
Let's talk about those fouls as well, particularly the one against Lexi Hall, who spent the entire night being shoved, elbowed, and knocked down. These displays were illegal, but they also included WWE-style moves where players thrust out their hips, bent their shoulders, and stretched their legs in an effort to trip her. But whistle after whistle was silent. The officials merely let it happen. But here's the problem. Instead of grumbling, Paul bolstered her defense. Every possession Jackie Young bought made her life completely miserable, forcing her to relocate from north to south, east to west. By the final buzzer, Hall's plus-minus was also one of the greatest on the floor. Then came the moment that summed up everything the finest. Kelsey Mitchell drives to the rim, appears to make contact with Wilson, and completes the bucket. But the refs quickly issue a technical not on Wilson, not on the Aces, on Mitchell. Then it was more than parody. Even the Vegas fans were taken aback since that wasn't officiating. Drama ensued, a desperate attempt to give the home team the advantage. But the ball doesn't lie. Free throws were not made by Vegas. Indiana. Buried jumpers and karma emerged faster than the officials could cover their tracks. Mitchell was not simply a goal scorer. She had something to say. With every bucket, the audience in Vegas fell silent. Every three-pointer they made turned their arrogance into pure panic. By the end of the night, she also had 34 points and complete control of the game. Simply ruthless shooting without any excuses or pleas for help. Odyssey Sims countered that excitement with veteran poise, slowing down when Vegas was in full gear and speeding up when needed, as if her job depended on it. Natasha Howard blocked second-chance scores and bodied bigger players inside. Wilson also had to work hard to earn every point because of Brianna Turner. No easy receptions, no free rotations, just unrelenting. Methodical physical defense. Indiana's collapse was anticipated. 6 players were not present. Caitlin Clark was not there. There is no Sophie Cunningham available. When they were benched, Sydney Coulson looked slimmer than ever. Analysts rejected them before they were tipped off. Commentators called it a mismatch. And Becky Hammond herself stated that Indiana hadn't seen the real Aces. Interpretation. It was supposed to be an easy sweep, but instead the fever rolled over Vegas. The Aces, meanwhile, showed their actual vulnerability. When Wilson isn't saving them with 40-point performances, they simply don't know what to do. Chelsea Gray experienced flashbacks. Jackie Young fired a few rounds, but it didn't matter because Indiana was indestructible. As soon as Wilson was benched because of foul trouble, Vegas collapsed. A 3-point contest quickly deteriorated into a 14-point deficit. Dependency. Not championship basketball is what that is. Following the game, Becky Hammond performed a spin job. When questioned about her team's struggles, she dismissed them as wasted opportunities and missed layups. It was more than just denial. It was obviously lazy. The Fever fared better than her group in every step. They defended more resolutely, played cleaner and made better shots. This wasn't bad luck. Simply put, Indiana was better. However, Hammond could not accept it. She couldn't say that Aaliyah Boston performed better than her MVP because she was unable to admit that Odyssey Sims and Lexi Hall clamped her veterans. She hid behind platitudes. In contrast, there was a very different vibe in the Fever locker room. When speaking, Kelsey Mitchell didn't mince words. Though she gave credit where credit was due and recognized Vegas's brilliance, she made it clear that Indiana had come to compete and they were not going anywhere. Her words were not outbursts of anger. They were self-assured, precise bow shots. The lyrical aspect of the evening came from her pointing out the ridiculousness and explaining how her squad endured in spite of dirty play and bad officiating without complaining. Vegas had the hardware, the buzz, and the headlines. Indiana was tough, resilient, and not scared to bow down. By the end of the game, the scoreboard told the story. Fever 89. Aces 73 on their home court on MVP night. The purported juggernaut was humiliated by the 6th seed, whom everyone ignored. Vegas doesn't want to hear this best-of-5 series statistic. 2% of the time, teams that win the opening game go on, so Indiana didn't just win. They altered the overall odds for the series. What was supposed to be a coronation was turned into a catastrophe. The irony of this whole evening is almost too much to take. Hours earlier, the cameras had been focused on A.A. Wilson, who was smiling and carrying her MVP medal. As the face of women's basketball, the league's golden child was praised for being unstoppable and untouchable. She was elbowing, missing layups, and begging the refs to save her from a Fever squad that had half of its players out in a matter of hours. What ought to have been a coronation turned into a disgrace. Because when you take away the hype and the exposure, what happens on the court is what matters. The Fever was also better on the court. Their advantage was greater. They were more hungry. Above all, they were fearless. Think about Boston Aaliyah. She doesn't get nearly as much attention as Wilson, but she played excellent defense. Wilson shot 6 for 22 from the field because Howard and Boston Turner never gave her a footing. Every post-up was contested. Every spin was accompanied by a wall. Every fadeaway had a hand in their face. Wilson was not the leader. She was flailing. Furthermore, the difference is